Good morning, folks. This is Jen Espinosa-Goswami coming to you live from my page over at Be Weightless. Obviously, I'm coming from my car. I'm parked in a parking lot, so no worries. I'm not driving. I'd love to hear from you if you're joining us live. What are you up to this beautiful Tuesday morning? It's a little bit chilly here in Minneapolis, but it's still beautiful, and I'm still owning that. So I wanted to come and talk to you a little bit more. So I've been sharing some insights from my half marathon this past weekend. And one particular insight I think needs to be highlighted because it's great to talk about what goes well, but it's also even better sometimes to talk about what doesn't go well. So today we're going to talk about how do you talk to yourself when you're not winning? Because logistically, realistically, practically, we're not going to be winning 100% of the time. And I want to share with you when I hit the hump, as we all do, and how I was able to talk myself through it. Because yes, I'm a health coach, and yes, I help other folks talk themselves through the mindset work, but that doesn't mean that I also don't struggle with this from time to time. So I'm sharing some of my insights and things that I feel were helpful for me when I was in a low place and I wasn't winning when it came to achievement and success in my belief around what I needed to achieve. So if you're joining us live, please say hi so I can say hi back. I love to know who's joining me live. And if you feel that this is going to be helpful to someone you are connected to or a friend of yours, please make sure you share this video because I want to make sure everyone sees this who needs to see this. And I trust that you know if this is right for someone in your network. So how do you talk to yourself? Most of us try to downplay that little voice in our head, the one that says, you're not good enough, you can't do this, what are you thinking, I can't believe you thought this was okay. We have that voice on a normal daily basis. Even the most positive people of us have that voice. It's not okay to say, oh, I don't have that voice at all. I feel good about myself all the time, because nobody does. I am a very positive person, but I still have that negative voice in my head, and I always will. Sometimes it's motivational, but what about those times when you're at the lowest of the low and you feel like you're failing, or at least you're not winning? Maybe I'll do a live video on what winning means when it comes to health, because that's a very big topic, and I feel that there's a lot to say about that as well. If you want to hear a little bit more about my thoughts on winning and health, please comment below and say winning, and I'll go on live to talk about that a little bit later. So I'll share the story that came up for me. The half marathon I did this weekend. Hi, make sure to say hi. The half marathon I did this weekend, I was at a point where I couldn't go on. It was about mile 10 and my legs started cramping up. My foot pain was getting intense enough that I was limp walking. I wasn't even normal walking. I was limp walking. And I had this moment where I passed their version of a SAG ride. SAG is like what you'll see in bike races, where they will actually take you to the finish because you cannot finish on your own. And first of all, I'm not a quitter. I've never been a quitter. I will never be a quitter. And at that point in my marathon, I was like, should I quit? And I was seriously and sorely tempted to quit and to tell these people, I don't think I can do it. Can you give me a ride? Some of the things that went into that temptation, I was all by myself. There was nobody around me. I knew that I was taking more time than the average person to finish this marathon, which normally I'd be okay about, but there's a timeline, there's a deadline when it comes to marathons. They close down the race at a certain point, and I could see signs that they were getting close to closing down the course. So first of all, I was physically not at my best and really struggling. I didn't know if I was going to injure myself. I didn't know how much further I could go. I honestly was questioning whether I could cross the finish line on my own 2 feet, which was one of my minimum goals, if you will. Second of all, I looked around me and there was nobody there. There was nobody on this journey with me. There was nobody to encourage me. There was nobody giving me a high five. I don't even know. I knew my family was waiting for me at the finish, but that was that was also going into this possible temptation to just take the shortcut back to the finish line with these sag ride people, with these people who could take me back on their little golf cart. There's nobody around me, so I'm like, it doesn't matter. Nobody's looking at what I'm doing. I'm the only one who's going to know that I quit, basically. So in this case, not being part of a group would have led to me quitting. So that's a powerful insight for people who think that they can do it on their own. And then maybe in the past you've struggled on your own because you don't have that group to, for lack of a better word, to look bad in front of. Because sometimes what we think others think about us can be more motivating than what we think about ourselves, especially if you don't think very highly of yourself. So in my case, I was like, there's nobody around, nobody will know except for me if I quit. And then knowing that I was coming up against the deadline, this race was going to end. They were going to close down the course. Would there be anyone there to record my finish? I knew there was because my family was there, but would there be anyone there to see my success? And in some ways that can be very important, to be acknowledged and validated for your success. So these were the temptations going through my head. Another temptation was, is it worth it to me to physically incapacitate myself, even temporarily, to finish something that most people don't really care about? And that's just being honest, because you can have a certain goal and people could be like, rah, 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 you're doing great. But at the end of the day, it doesn't personally hit them in any way, shape, or form. So I wasn't doing it for anyone else. I was doing it for me, but I had to make a decision at that point. I was really low physically. I was exhausted. It was freezing cold. I could barely feel my legs by this point. My feet were hurting and burning with pain. And I was like, should I ask these people to rescue me and basically help me quit? So I talked to the people, because there were 3 or 4 of them sitting and chatting and kind of staring at me and probably wondering if I was going to ask for a rescue. And I talked to them and I said, hey, there's about 2 miles left in this thing, right? And they're like, yeah, there's about that much. It's just a loop around and then you're done. And that was the end of that conversation. I nodded and I kept on moving. Now here's the thing. After I passed by them, I'm like, oh shoot, was that the wrong decision to make? And you will come across these types of decisions multiple times on your journey. Because if there's one thing I've learned from either losing 100 pounds 20 years ago, to becoming a health coach, to becoming a speaker and sharing my story in front of hundreds of audiences, I've learned that you will always find new reservoirs of energy and ability within yourself. And when I passed that place and I passed that decision point, you will always make new decisions and they will always be tough decisions. And this was a tough decision for me. And I passed them like, was that the wrong decision? Because even I second guess myself. I'm sure you have second guessed yourself in the past with a decision you've made. And sometimes we don't always know whether it's the right decision. So as I kept going further away, my feet started hurting less. And that's when I started talking to myself. I don't normally talk to myself, but I needed that. I needed to talk to myself. So here's a question for those of you who are watching. And if you're watching on the replay, please comment below with hashtag replay or just replay, so I know who's seeing this after the fact. When you are at the lowest of the low and you're questioning the decision that preceded it, and you are feeling very exhausted mentally, physically, maybe even in pain, and you're questioning your decision making, how do you talk to yourself at that point? Do you say, oh, shoulda, woulda, coulda? Do you say, what were you thinking, or how stupid, or that you always do this? Or how do you talk to yourself? I'd really love to hear from you. I have no judgment for anyone in what they tend to tell themselves, but I do encourage you to be honest. Because if you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with anyone. I'm not going to hold you to your honesty. That's up to you. But if you think about the times in your life when you've been challenged and you made a decision and you start second guessing that decision, how do you end up talking to yourself? Here's how I ended up talking to myself. And I feel kind of cheesy saying this because I don't normally talk to myself. I mean, in my head, I might say certain mantras or things like that because that's kind of how I do. But I was talking out loud to myself because I knew. So there's power in talking out loud to yourself. I don't know if you're aware of that. You can talk to yourself in your head. And most of us talk negatively to ourselves in our head. So conscious, unconscious, it's kind of at a different level. But if you verbalize a different conversation out loud, that has the power to drown out anything that's going on internally. So here's a trick for you. If you tend to talk negatively to yourself, chances are good you're not saying it out loud, right? Like you're having an actual conversation with this person in your head because you want to pretend that person doesn't exist, right? Or that voice doesn't exist. And that's okay. You can pretend all you want. They'll still be there. But what you can do is you can verbalize an opposite opinion, an opposite statement, and that will drown out whatever's going on inside of your head. You can even journal it out, talk it out loud, whatever feels most comfortable to you. But when you put it into a different format than listening to it inside your head, you can write it down using your fingers, you can say it out loud. You're creating a different power play with that. Here's what I was saying to myself, because I was still wanting to quit. Just to be completely honest, I still wanted to quit. And so I was talking to myself out loud, and here's what I was telling myself. I didn't believe it, but here's what I needed to believe and what I needed to tell myself, and I verbalized all of this. I shouted it, and I didn't shout it. I said it into the cold blowing wind that didn't care what happened to me one way or another. I said, I am a marathon runner. I do great things. I do amazing things. My body is capable of amazing things. I can do this. I am successful. I didn't say I'm a winner because I have some interesting stories behind me about winning and losing. I don't think it's possible to win or lose in health. I really don't. So I didn't say that kind of messaging because it wouldn't have felt true to me. But I said, I'm a marathon runner. Even though at the time I was walking, I was not running. At the time I was in pain and didn't know if I could finish. I told myself, I am a marathon runner. And here's this distinction there. I didn't say I run marathons because that's not true. I wasn't running the marathon. I was walking at the time, and I don't run more than one. I have no goals to do another one. But I am a marathon runner is accurate because I have been training for 6 months to be a marathon runner. I am a marathon runner. And that was what I needed to finish because that's an identity. That's not something I do. That's my identity. I also was telling myself, what a beautiful day for a run. How gorgeous that I get to be outside right now. Look at the beautiful leaves. So I was appreciating my environment because I needed to get outside of my body. My body was hurting and it was telling me, no girl, you're done. I said, no, it's beautiful out here. I love where I am. Look how wonderful this is. I had conversations with the photographer. The poor guy was out in the cold out there. So I connected. I connected with my environment. I connected with the people around me. The few people that were there and had to be there, poor people. But, and then I told myself, I said, this is my identity. This is what I have chosen for myself. This is what I've been training for. This is who I am. That's what's important. So when you think about your goals, most of our goals are results driven, numbers driven, time driven. They're driven by something that's outside of ourselves, but that's not the important part. The important part is that your goal should tie into your identity in some level. Here's what I mean by that. And by the way, I didn't totally make this up. This is from the book Atomic Habits, which is a fabulous book, and I'll pop the link down below because I'm really enjoying what I'm reading from it so far. And it's pretty common sense. It's based on science, but they don't quote a lot of research studies. So I encourage Atomic Habits. But here's the thought. So if you focus on your goals and your targets and your numbers, you're going to miss the biggest part. And this is something I also walk clients through when we schedule a weight loss breakthrough session, is how do you tie in your goal to not just a thing and a to-do item, but how do you make it part of your identity, your future identity, because you're not there yet. How do you tie it into your future identity? You can use I am statements. I am fit. I am strong. I am an athlete. I am a runner. I am healthy. I am mindful about what I eat. You know, you can use whatever statements make sense for you and for your situation, but you're putting it into your identity. It's not something you do. You don't say, I eat mindfully. That's great. Sometimes you might, and sometimes you might not. It's not part of who you are, right? It's just something you do. And we've had this conversation in my run club where they're like, I am a runner. I'm like, no, I'm not a runner. I run as part of my fitness, but I'm not a runner, because it wasn't really tied to my identity. But when I was in the lurch and really struggling, I needed to tell myself I am a runner, because it was true. I am a runner. I've been running for 6 months. That certainly makes me a runner. It's not like a 30-day challenge or anything like that. So you use it when it's applicable to your situation and when it helps you get over the hump, whatever that current hump is for you. At the end of the day, if you tie it to your identity, it's gonna make the difference for you. It's gonna be something you can connect to from an internal motivational standpoint, and you'll say, this is true about me. Even if you don't believe it at first, because you won't. If you're in your first month of starting a new habit, you may not feel like that habit defines who you are yet. That's okay. You can still talk to yourself as if it is true. Because when you tell yourself it is a true part of who you are, you will connect to that on a different level, and there will be fewer excuses for you. Because if you're a runner, for example, then you run to the finish. That's what runners do. It's not about you're going to finish this today and drop that identity. And here's the interesting thing. I'm all about up-leveling yourself and getting to the next stage and challenging yourself physically, which I do all the time. I have no ambitions to run another marathon. So I am a marathon runner, and I like the idea of running from time to time. And I don't feel the need to do it anymore. But it's still part of who I am. I'm still a runner. There are still days I wake up, I'm like, this would be a beautiful day for a run. Because I've changed who my identity is. And I've never considered myself a runner. Ever, ever, ever. Never wanted to be. So if there's something in your life where you're like, I want to be this person, and I'm not there yet, tell yourself you're that person. Do the work. The work will become easier when you tell yourself that's who you are. And see what shifts for you. Try doing it for the next 30 days. If you need support for this, I would love to support you. And the way I do that best is through Let It Go Group Health Coaching. We have our next round starting November 6th. Shout out to my Scorpios out there. We're in Scorpio season right now. What? I love Scorpio season because I'm a Scorpio. But I would really love to support and encourage you in creating your new identity. And we do that through a 6-week group coaching program. Now, you're not going to completely change your identity in 6 weeks. I'm not going to like blow smoke up your butt and tell you that's true. It's not true. But you can do the work. You can slowly shift what it is you're doing and how you're connecting to that in a new and meaningful way. And I can help you through Let It Go. If you have questions on the program, I will drop the link below here so that you can see details on the program. If you have any questions or you want to know more, then schedule a phone call with me. It's called a weight loss breakthrough session. Even if it's not a fit for you, I will help you identify what might be a fit for you. But what's better than getting that support through the holidays? I'm here to support you. I'm here to change who you think you are. You are certainly more than you think you are. You have more potential in you than you ever thought you had. And I want to help bring that out of you. A presentation I'm doing next month is called Unleash Your Inner Wonder Woman. I believe you have a Wonder Woman in you. And if you want to make that as part of your I am statements, I am Wonder Woman, I will love to cheer you on there because that's something that just lights me up and makes me feel good, and it'll make you feel good as well. So check out Let It Go. Let me know if you have any questions. And don't forget to share this video if it has touched you on some level, because I want to touch, not in a creepy way, I want to share this message with as many people as possible. It's important to verbalize your I am statements. It's important to determine what your new identity looks like and to reinforce that new identity through statements, through your actions, and through getting the right kind of support for you to reach that new identity. And I'm here to help you with that support. Have a wonderful Tuesday. This is Jen Espinosa Goswami, your friend, cheerleader, and health coach over at Weightless. I'd love to hear from you. How do you talk to yourself when you're not feeling like you're winning? let's hear your thoughts and share your stories, because I'm here to provide an outlet for you to do that, to do so in a safe and supportive way. Thank you for sharing, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.